Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is going to be my Wednesday Q&A session. So I want to first start with an announcement. This weekend, I'm actually going to be at the Toronto Fan Expo. And the Toronto Fan Expo, just for those who are not aware, is kind of like our big convention for comics, for movies, pretty much everything related to anime, horror, pretty much pretty much everything. It's a pretty big thing. People get all dressed up. It's a big event. And I'm going on this Saturday, so I'm kind of excited. I'm pretty pumped. My plan is I'm going to record my experiences there and maybe do like a week-long session of videos from the fan expo. So so stay tuned. Hopefully if I can get good recordings. I'm not sure what it's going to be like. I'll be with my two younger kids, my daughter who's 16 and my son who's 12, and they might be pulling me off to do different things. They're really into getting the signings from the different voice actors. They're really into Genshin Impact and and all these anime voice actors. So I might end up getting stuck in a line, you know, just trying to get a signature from some random voice actor. I actually love this stuff too, so it's always cool. But it takes me away from actually doing the stuff that I really want to do, which is looking through long boxes, looking for some kind of cool comics. But we'll see what happens. Uh, Now, if you're in Toronto, and you can always like Instagram me, or my Instagram link is in the description. It's always there. And you can just Instagram me and say, hey, let's meet up. I'm always willing to meet up with people that watch my videos. So yeah, so that's what's happening. That's my big announcement. Now let's get into the Q&A. So I got some really great questions, not a ton of questions, but just really great ones. And the first one is not really a question, and it's not really even somebody that commented on the video that I posted last week. So if you post on the video last week, I answered your questions this week, right? So this is a comment that was placed on a different video, but I felt like it had to be addressed. And it's something that I do. I mess up a lot. I say the wrong character, or I say the wrong issue number. I mess up sometimes. It's like one of those things. Yeah, I have like 20 some odd thousand books in my collection. I don't remember every single first appearance or the reasoning behind why I purchased some random book, but I try. I really do try. And I actually messed up on a pretty major key within my collection, and it was Comic Samurai that kind of pointed it out. And I feel really embarrassed actually about this. So I did a video on a Bad Girl, I should say, Bad Girl comics from the 90s. And if you watch that video, I'm like so proud I show this one comic, and it's the wrong comic. It's just the wrong comic. So he writes, fun video. I believe that is not Lady Death #1. It is Lady Death from the second series, Between Heaven and Hell #1 from March 1995. The original Lady Death #1 is from January 1994. Very similar chromium cover. So I'm going to show you the book that I showed in the previous video, which is this one, this Lady Death. Okay, and I actually was thinking that I got this one mixed up. So the two books mixed up. So this one, really amazing cover, kind of sexy, kind of awesome. Actually, I have 2 copies of it. That's how much I love it. So, but I actually do have, because the story is true. They always put this Lady Death, and it was the first time I saw a Bad Girl cover art. And it was this one. This is the 1994 edition. I even got the chromium card. So you could, get this little card. And this is the first issue of Lady Death, #1. And it's not her first appearance. Her first appearance was in Evil Ernie. And in Evil Ernie #2 was her first cover. So I do know Lady Death quite well. I just messed up in terms of, I'm not sure why I got the two covers mixed up in my mind. But this is her first cover, a first cover from her series, I should say, or her first series would be a better way of saying it. And it's a pretty cool cover. It's like these kind of, I don't know, chromium covers. They're pretty awesome. And yeah, I was super excited as a kid to get this. Well, I was not a kid. I mean, I was in university, but I was pretty excited. So this is from 1994, January 1994. So that's my mess up. I just wanted to clarify that which book is the right one to get. There's a big price difference in these two books. This one you can get for like 20, 30 bucks. This one is like $100 book. So pretty expensive. At the time, back in the 90s, it was still like a $40 book. And that was, whoa, it's so expensive. I ended up buying it later when the kind of market tanked for about 20 bucks. So I was quite happy. So that's the first question. Now, there's another, and it kind of leads into the next question in a way. And this is from Rocket Fighter number 8. Thank you for answering my weekly questions. After collecting comic books from 1978 to 1988, I left the hobby because I got married. In 1991, I sold my giant size X-Men number 1. Oh, that's so sad. Okay, which I purchased by mail order from Mile High Comics in 1982, along with my run of new X-Men from to my LLCS. Later, I regretted doing so. That in 2005, I bought my first slab, giant size X-Men, a CGC 9.2, which is pretty amazing. I also now have X-Men 94 through 104 in slabs. What is the very first slab you ever bought and the story behind it? Also, have you collected comic books continuously, or were there any breaks? Okay, and I will answer both of those questions. So my very first slab, and actually I was really new to slabs. And I didn't really get the whole concept of slabs when I bought this slab because I was used to raw comics. You know, I'm like old school collector. So, and I didn't know if I really wanted it slabbed. I was like, oh, should I break it out? I didn't even know, like when I first got it. And it was this comic, Fantastic Four number 52, first appearance of the Black Panther. Now, actually, I didn't want to buy it slabbed. I was actually trying to find a raw copy, but it was this was before the movie spec for Black Panther was coming out. So I just liked the character. I thought he was a cool character, and I just wanted to get a copy of it. So I bought, but it just happened to be in a slab. I was like, okay, I guess I'll get it in a slab. It might show well on the wall, But actually, after getting it in the slab, I realized the coolness of slabs. I really like the whole grading things, and it's a low grade. I paid $50 for it, just so you know. Like, it wasn't like a really pricey book. So I was like, I'm fine with that. I can show it on the wall. It'll look cool. And I was happy with it. But I was so happy with the idea of the slab that it protects the comic, because I was always like, I had this weird thing, like, I was always paranoid about bending the comics, or, them getting like kind of the bags kind of deteriorating over time. And I really liked the idea of the slab and the kind of the protection it provided for the comics. So I really enjoyed that. I don't read a lot of my comics in the physical form, which is kind of weird, but I mentioned this many times. I'm one of those really paranoid collectors that I'm really worried about damaging my books. So I always read the digital formats. But I do enjoy the comics. I love seeing them. So I like having that slab where you can kind of hold the comic and not worry about it getting mangled. So this was my first slab. And it led to many, many slabs. I have about 500 slabs right now, or more. I'm not sure. I kind of lost count. But I know there's at least 400 in this room and in the outside room where I just have the wall completely covered with slabs. So, and then I have three or five, actually. I have five more boxes filled with slabs as well. So I just have a ton of slabs, like at least 500. Um, so yeah, I was quite happy to get this, and it made me sort of addicted to buying slabs. So that's my story. In terms of leaving the collecting, so my collecting story is a little weird. I first started collecting in the early '80s with my Howard the Duck. I mentioned Howard the Duck before, and then I sort of kind of got like I got the Disney comics from my parents and stuff like that, and I sort of collected Uncle Scrooge and kind of the Disney stuff. But it wasn't until the early 90s when I went to university, like in 91. So that gives you a sense of how old I am, and also when I really got into collecting, that I started picking up pretty much everything. I got all the 90s books, and I was sort of into that whole 90s hype. And, but the Bad Girls kind of led me a different way than most people. So with the Bad Girls, I really loved the Bad Girl comics. I got into Vampirella, and Vampirella led me into collecting magazines. And so I sort of got out of collecting comics and into collecting the magazines. So everyone else is buying comics. I kind of stopped at the right time in a way because the market tanked. And I was buying these magazines that were really cheap. I could pick up like a early Vampirella for like, I think I bought a number 1 Vampirella and actually I traded it for some other books. I bought it for like $20. Like I was buying like, and I had duplicates of it. I only trade when I have duplicates generally. And I got a whole run of Vampirella, then I got a whole run of Creepy, Eerie, and all those. And I sort of focused on that one publisher, Warren Publishing, until I got the complete collection. But that took me from the mid 90s all the way into the early 2000s. Okay. And there was a kind of a hiatus that I had from 1996 to 1999, where I was still buying. Actually, I was still buying these magazines, but I was doing something really funny. It was actually kind of hilarious. What I was doing was I was working in Korea, okay? And like, so I'm like in the middle of nowhere, like in terms of the comics that I'm interested in. Like I'm on the other side of the world. And the comics that I were interested in are all American. So you can't go to the local Korean comic book shop and pick up some, comic that you're interested in. And I was especially interested in these really rare magazines. So I'm like in Korea, but I still want to collect. And it was the first time I really had a job. That was like when I was working as an English teacher. I was, had some money and I didn't have anything to spend it on. So I was like, oh, I'll just buy comics. And I was buying stuff from Mile High Comics. I was buying stuff from eBay, early eBay, where you had to like wire money and hope that they would send the comic. It was very, very odd time to buy comics. And what I did was I didn't want to send the books to Korea because it didn't make sense. I was only planning to stay there a year, ended up staying 3 years. And what I did was I had them all sent to my parents' house. So my parents were getting all these comics and they really didn't understand comics or anything. And they were like really annoyed because the post office was getting all these packages and they were like sometimes having to pay customs on it, and they're getting kind of annoyed. And every time I'd call them on the phone, they would be like, oh, your more comics came and we don't want these comics in the house, and please stop sending comics to us. It was funny, but I still sent them, and they always remind me of how annoying that was for many years afterwards. But I was young. Young, and I just loved sending my comics to my parents' house. So when I got home from Korea, like 3 years later, I had they had just basically taken the comics and thrown them into my room, into my childhood room, and they stacked them on the bed. And the bed was just like stacked with all these boxes of comics and collectibles that I had gotten for my Warren collection. And it was like Christmas times 10. It was it was just so insane, opening up all those boxes of these magazines, rare stuff, really rare stuff. I was like, there was actually a few items that I never received. I was kind of sad when there was a couple items that I didn't get that I had ordered, but for the most part, they were all there, and I was like so excited to do that. And my parents were so excited to finally get rid of all that junk from the house. So that was my sort of journey. And then what happened was I got married too. I got married when I returned from Korea to my wife. She's Korean, and I kind of stopped for a little while. I didn't really have any money, so it wasn't like when I was in Korea where I didn't really care. I was a little bit, you know, lax. um, and I was really paranoid. I wanted to be that good husband and provide for my wife. She couldn't work. She was just, she was new to Canada. She was going through the immigration process, and she was still a student. She was finishing up her master's at that time. So it was kind of a weird journey. So I sort of had to stop for a little while, and then I built my business. My business kind of grew, and then once I could buy like a few comics here, a few magazines there, and I was kind of really not active in the whole collecting thing, and I wasn't really following the trend, so I didn't really buy the modern stuff. So my knowledge at that time of like the 2000 era, like 2000 to 2000, I'd say 15, was pretty weak. I really didn't know all the cool stuff at the time, and it wasn't until after 2015 where I really started getting back into collecting comics and like, oh yeah, I got to get this issue, I got to get this issue, and I really started building all these slabs. Obviously, are after that time period, so I really went full full on after I got back into collecting. So yeah, and when I sold my house, I really I didn't have any mortgage, I didn't have any debt, and I had all this extra money, and I just like, oh, I'm just gonna buy a whole bunch of comics. So that's been my journey. I know it's a long story, but hopefully an interesting one. So that was my answer to that question. Okay, so Jay West asks, what comics would you recommend as a must-have for a collection? Okay, and this is my answer to this is gonna be a little weird. Maybe one each from the golden, silver, bronze, or one each from Marvel, DC, and Independent. Okay, so I'd be interested to know why each is such a great story, investment, etc. So he wants to know like what I would recommend. So the way I kind of took this is a little differently. So I picked one kind of character from those series, from those things, because it's weird to think of a book. Like back to what Rocket Fighter 8 said, where he had the giant size X-Men. That would be the pinnacle Bronze Age book to me, I think. Like that's, if I was going to say what book is the key book from the Bronze Age, it'd be either Hulk 181 with Wolverine or Giant Size X-Men. But the books that I'm going to show are kind of my interesting ones. And one of them is like a spec, like that maybe is not a great spec, but it's a spec. I'll show you the ones though. So I really like the Golden Age. And I'm going to show you a character that I like, and I've been going on about this character a lot. And the reason I like this character is she's sexy. That's pretty much it. She's sexy, kind of quirky, kind of sums up a lot of the female characters of the Golden Age. So I kind of like her. And it's Miss Mask. So this is Miss Mask, America's Best Comics. 23. This is her first cover for America's Best Comics. And this was where she got kind of the new outfit that she has. Like if you look up top on my wall, way up, just above my head or next to my head, you'll see Exciting Comics. And that's where she made her first appearance. But America's Best is where she kind of got the new outfit, and it's a little bit more sexy than her original outfit. And her art, the artwork is done by Alex Schomburg. So it's like a great character with a great artist behind her as well. So we got another America's Best with her, with this the infinity cover. It's not really an infinity cover, but it's kind of, she's painting him, kind of a portrait cover, I guess. And then we got America's Best again, a little bit of a bondage cover. It's the guy in bondage though. So those would be that character would be my golden age pick. I could have said so many different ones. Like, if you really want to get some pinnacle kind of cool investment-y one, definitely, you go for the blue chip characters like the Batmans or the Wonder Woman or the Dr. Fate, which is like something back there. Those are the ones that have that potential to really be like valuable today and long term. So if you're going for the investment side, those are kind of the ones. If you're going for something that you can sort of get behind and enjoy, Miss Mask is for me. Okay. My next one is a little bit safer in terms of both of those things. I picked this one for the Silver Age. So this is my Silver Age choice. And this character is obviously very well known. This is, Hal Jordan. And it's his first appearance in Showcase 22. There's going to be a Green Lantern series coming out. So not only does this fit that whole like investment, potential, because, once there's a series, it generally has a tendency of increasing the value of the books. But it is a great book. Like, we got a whole reimagining of a classic character. Green Lantern is a Golden Age character. The Golden Age character is very different than the Silver Age character. Like, the Golden Age character with the lantern was kind of a magical item, whereas in this, they redefined it as being this cosmic item, where there's this whole intergalactic element to the Green Lantern, the Green Lantern Corps, the whole idea of like not just one Green Lantern, but a universe of Green Lanterns. So it's kind of amazing, thing where it's sort of like you realize how big something can be, almost like, and how small it was before. So this really kind of open up the whole spectrum of potential story ideas, like to a universe level, So just a really great reimagining of a classic character. So I'm really happy to have this book. It's like a major book in my collection, and it's a major character that I think has a lot of potential. And the great thing about DC characters, this is a DC book. DC characters, they're way undervalued. Way undervalued. You get Marvel ones where, something that's not quite as significant, and they're 5 times more expensive. So I think, DC books, highly underrated. And that is a great opportunity, though, as an investment side. You can get not only a great book, but you can get a great potential investment. And this is sort of my cop-out. I was trying to figure out what to pick from the Bronze Age. I said I should have picked like Giant Size X-Men. That's kind of like a key book. But I picked this one just because it was hot and now it's not, and it's got potential to be hot again. And this is Brother Voodoo's first appearance. This is Strange Tales 169, and you got Brother Voodoo on the cover. It is a book that was really, really hot. It kind of went up pretty rapidly, but then it cooled off. There was some talk about him being in the new Doctor Strange movie. There was talk about, having his character appear somewhere in the MCU very soon. COVID happened and things kind of got delayed, and the talk kind of got quiet about this character. But it's a character and it's a book that I think is really a good one to have in your collection. And this is Strange Tales number 169, the first appearance of Brother Voodoo. And it's a good time to buy it because it's on the dip. It's right now. It's the market's a little low on this book, and it's a good time to pick it up before it gets hot again. So I think it will get hot again. Okay, so that was my Bronze Age, and I feel like I have to kind of give some credit to the Copper Age. So Copper Age, just so you know, is the 80s. And there's one book here, and I got it right here. I'm just gonna actually one character, I should say. And I have this two Grail books actually, and this to me is like a major book. And this is primer number 2, first appearance of Grendel. Now there's been talk that they're making a series for Grendel, and this is his first regular series. So Grendel number 1. So I'd recommend these 2 books for the Copper Age. Now these are definitely not cheap books, but you know they're the ones that if you're a collector and you want to get some really cool books that kind of define the Copper Age, you know, it's either Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Usagi Yojimbo, or The Crow, or this book, Grendel. So definitely one that is worthy of picking up. So that was, I hope useful. And yeah, I enjoyed the question. It was a good question. I was a little bit struggling with the Bronze Age. I was really trying to think of what were some great books for the Bronze Age. And yeah, so I gave kind of a weird one. So, okay. Now Richard Lishira, he asks, what are your thoughts on the Marvel's NFT sale about a month ago? What do you think of NFTs in general? Well, this is kind of similar to a question that was asked before. So if you're not familiar with an NFT, it stands for non-fungible token. And I actually come from the digital space, so I kind of get, like, I get Bitcoin, I get all these kind of digital currencies plus digital items, and that's what a non-fungible fungible token is. It's like it's a virtual item. So you can buy like art, like images that are digital, and you can buy it through one of these tokens. And what it does is it protects your rights to it. Basically, it says you have the right to this token, to this item. And if you can actually charge copyright, if you know, like fees, if people use that image on whatever. And that's a very powerful thing, and it actually makes sense for the whole digital space, where you want to have, let's say you're building a website and you want to get images. Well, having these NFTs really allows you to kind of charge people when they use your imagery. Very useful. However, what we're talking about now is comics, or they did statues as well, and they're doing it now, these kind of digital comics. And the problem that I see is they're not one of a kind. And it's not something that people use somewhere else, right? So these are things that are just used as a collected item. Now, I prefer, you know, I mentioned that I love reading the digital comics, but I love having the tangible one. There's something about the physical nature of a comic that I see as always being something that people will want, because you can't, it's if you reprint it or you recreate it, it's not the same as that original, the one that was created when that character was whatever. You know, it's just that tangible item has some merits behind it. Now the tokens, the way that they do it, there's a bunch of things that really irritate me. They do like edition sizes where you might have 1,000 of them, or 10,000 of them, or 100,000 of these statues, the virtual statues or virtual comics, and I just see that as being very overpriced. You know, if it was one of a kind, maybe, you know, and then you have the rights to it, really kind of cool. But because it's one of those things where it's generally they do reprints through these NFTs, I don't really see the value there. It's just like a reprint of a comic, in the physical form. I don't really see the much value there. It's not the original. So I think that's kind of weak. The other thing is what I've seen with the NFTs is they sometimes do re-releases. So you have series one of this for a reprint. Basically, it's a reprint. But then there's another series that comes out, which is a different cover, maybe, and it's just another variation of that reprint. And again, it just further dilutes the value of those things. And I see it as one of those things where probably if you look at it as a short-term investment right now, like kind of thing, you can probably make some money on it. Okay, because people will be like, oh, it's the new cool thing, and they'll buy in on it, and then people will realize that this is kind of almost like vaporware. It just has no real tangible value, and the market will crash. It's kind of like the 90s thing, but in a different way. So I've seen this so many times where there's this cyclical thing where people get all hyped about something, prices go through the roof, and then people realize that there's nothing behind it, and the market tanks. So I don't see NFTs unless they go the way I was describing, where they're more something more unique and something that you can resell or use, not resell, but with NFTs you can resell them, but really get rights or royalties for those NFTs. I don't think there's any way that it's going to be that successful in the long term. Okay, that's just my opinion. Okay, so next one is from Cap in Comics, and he asked, "What comic do you have multiple copies of?" Okay, and he put a little bomb emoji. So I'm not sure if he means that these comics were like the X-Men #1, where in the 90s where there was like hundreds of them, and everyone had like long boxes of X-Men #1s. I don't have anything like that. I never did that. But I do have some multiple comics of ones that I really loved, like Howard the Duck. I had like 3 issues of Howard the Duck, and I had a few issues where I ordered a comic, and then I thought I didn't get it, and then I ordered it again, and I got a whole bunch of duplicates that way. But generally I order just one copy. There was one time that I did go a little crazy with buying multiple copies, and I only bought 3, and it was for Spawn #1. So I bought like Spawn #1 through 5, I think 3 times. I had like multiple copies of Spawn #1 through 5. Okay. It was the hot comic, and it was Image was just coming out as a new thing. I thought it was going to be huge. Those comics are worth something now, but nothing major. Like, it was one of those things where I actually, I don't regret buying them, but it was not a winning idea to buy multiple copies of Spawn #1 through 5. So that was my experience. But there are comics that I do buy, that I buy multiple comics of it, like, or copies of it, I should say, because I want to trade them, and I know that they're undervalued. So if I see a dollar bin book and I know it's like, wow, that's a $100 book, I'll buy it. I'll use it as an item to trade. So that's one. Also, the one that I just did a video yesterday where I was showing a comic that I traded. Well, I have 3 copies of that. That's Brave and the Bold #60 from 1965. I had 3 copies of it, and I only bought multiple copies because I was so upset with my first copy. Like, it was a 2.0, and it had a big chunk missing out of it, and it bothered me, that chunk, because it was just where the one of the characters' images was, and it really bothered me. So then I ended up bidding on 2 auctions at the same time to get a replacement copy, a higher grade. And then I won both auctions. Surprised. I was like, oh, great. Now I have 3 copies of it. So I won both those auctions and ended up with 3 copies. So yeah. But I ended up trading it, and I still have one more that I'm willing to trade, Brave and the Bold 60, and it's a slab version. But it's my annoying copy, so you might get annoyed by it too. So that was my story there. John Gabriel asks, here's this week's question. You mentioned an extremely long waiting time to get a comic graded by CGC. This is a complaint that I'm hearing more and more often these days, and I believe that it is hurting CGC's reputation in the comic community. As a businessman, how would you go about solving this problem? Is it simply the case that CGC need to hire and train more graders to meet the current demand, or is there a better long-term solution? Actually, he answers the question in the question. So if I was a business owner, well, I am, and I get more demand for my services, and so I'll actually give you a little insight into what I do and my business currently. I actually have multiple offices overseas, and they're my offices. They're not like some like people that are like freelancers. These are my employees. And what I do is I have one office where I bought this huge desk. It's like a kind of booth thing. I actually had it built where it can expand up to like 15 to 20 employees. It's this big desk. Right now I have about 10 employees there. But it's designed so that I can expand out, get more computers, and just expand out that office space to 20 employees. So my plan is, if I get more business that I can't handle with my existing staff, then I basically, have the space set up so that I can expand out and handle twice as much work. I actually can probably, because I always develop systems to improve the speed of my employees, like so that they can do more. I could probably do 3 times as much work. And the type of work that I do is like social media marketing, SEO, just web marketing in general. And I use my team overseas to basically do these kind of tasks. Well, CGC has the same kind of model. I would hope that they have this business where they have tasks that have to be done. Somebody has to receive the comics. Somebody has to go through and make sure that they don't have like certain restoration. Somebody has to make sure that they have a certain what is that grade, and you have to, if you get too much demand and you don't provide the supply, like then you either have to adjust your pricing to discourage that demand, or you have to ramp up your work and really get more employees to do the tasks. And it's really about creating and this is what I do with my business. We get new employees, and we have like kind of a mentorship where they kind of go under the wing of another employee, and that other employee basically guides them through doing the tasks, and so that they get better at it. And they also monitor to make sure that they're doing it right. So you can do the same within CGC, where they can just hire people, have them doing this mentorship, and really helping them to get to the level that they need to get in order to grade comics at that CGC standard, right? So as a business person, you always have to be able to scale. And it's actually something that I've seen kill business, where they don't have the capability to scale their business. They can go out of business. I've had it actually happen to a few of my clients, where I made them super successful with all my marketing, and when they scaled, they didn't have the sense of how to scale, and they actually went bankrupt just trying to scale to the business, to the size of the business that they were getting, the demand, to handle that demand. They just couldn't meet the demand, and sometimes that can kill a business. CGC just recently got purchased for, I think it was like 400 million or $500 million. it has the money that it could use to really improve its infrastructure. And I really think it should. And, this kind of thing where you have people complaining like me of waiting 6 months for a comic to come back, that is just not acceptable, especially with millennials and the younger generation that have no patience. They're used to like Netflix. They want things right on demand, and if they're waiting 6 months, that is just not a good situation for them. They will freak out at you, and you'll lose those clients to another company that maybe produces better results, maybe has better slabs, better turnaround times, and gets things done. So this is a real killer. It can really, they have to really protect their reputation by getting that turnaround time much, much shorter. So that's my opinion on that one from a business standpoint. Okay. I actually have a business channel, which is a total different thing. Okay. So the next one is from Instagram. So I actually post up on Instagram. I mentioned it a couple times in this video. You really should check out my Instagram account. It's Comic Collector Geek on Instagram. It's just in the description. I link to it. But here's a question from Instagram, and it's from Collecto6. He asked, of all the good girl, bad girl, headlight suggestive covers from 1947 to 1949, very specific time period, what are your favorite covers? Okay. So some of my favorite covers really are the ones that are along the top. So if you look at the top, they're really my kind of favorite ones. But I didn't really want to pull those all down to show some of my favorite covers. So I wanted to show you kind of some that are actually some of my favorite covers. There's one that I'm actually getting soon that is definitely one of my top favorite comics of all time in terms of the cover. It's Wonder Comics 15. Look it up. It's just a great cover. Good girl art, bondage, miniature girl, like an evil person like attacking. Just really great cover. So that's Wonder Comics number 15. And it's a pretty pricey book, actually. I'm getting a nice, like one of my viewers had a copy of it, and I'm going to show a future video of that. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a great unboxing once I get it. Okay, but I'm going to show you the ones that I have that aren't on the wall, but that are just really great. That some of these are kind of some of my favorites. So the first one is All Top Comics number 10. It's a VG Plus comic. It's got some bit of roughness there, but it's got the bondage. It's got the girls in the bikinis. It's got a little pygmy. It's got the precarious situation. It's got it all. It's just a great cover. Just one that I was really happy to get. A really rare comic too. So it has a whole bunch of features that I really like. And I think I'm not sure if it's Matt Baker or is it Cayman Art. I'm not sure. But it's from 1948. So it's in that 1947 to 1949 time period. Okay, one that is not, I think this is 1950, so just outside of that time period, but it is one of my all-time favorite covers from that good girl art, is Ginger number 1. This is actually quite a high grade one. I'm going to get this slab some point. Actually, I see this is an A, just so you know. I think it's a pedigree, because I've seen it like this kind of A being used on multiple comics, always the same handwriting. So I think this might be a pedigree as well. Just a thing I wanted to mention, but it's just a really great, suggestive good girl art cover with the kind of the tight sweater headlight thing going on. Ginger, what would you consider the most outstanding development in history in recent years? And her answer is the history teachers, and she's got a little love, it's just so cute, and it's got that innocent puppy dog love thing going on. I really, really enjoy this one. So this is, I believe this is from 1950 or 1951. So it's in that time period. A little bit off by a couple of years. Okay, now this one is in really rough shape, but it is definitely one of my favorite headlight covers, well-known headlight cover. And it's this one, Phantom Lady, number 14, I believe. And it's just a really great Matt Baker cover. It's definitely got that headlight thing going on, and it's just really great good girl art. Phantom Lady, the whole series was known for its good girl art. A lot of lingerie panels and just really fun stuff. Just a really great one. So that's another one. Another one, so I have 3 more to go, is Sunny. I'm a big Al Felstein fan, and he did a lot of these, like a lot of his early work from the late 40s. This is I believe this is 1948 or 49. Were headlight covers, were these kind of good girl art headlight covers, and it's so suggestive. It's got so many interesting things going on. It's the guy's she's kind of flashing her crotch at the guy in the background, which, pretty suggestive. And then you got it danger, thin ice. It's just that sort of humor there, right? It's a little bit thin ice in terms of what her actions are and in terms of actual environment. So it's just a really interesting cover. And, it's got that sort of innocence too. She's got the little love things going, the little hearts going on around her and stuff. Just a really great cover. So that's Sunny. I believe that's Sunny number, I forgot what issue number. They never say. I think it's issue 10, I'm going to guess. I forget what issue number that is, but it's a great cover. I think it's actually 9. Okay. Now this is my other Al Felstein one. I actually have 2 Al Felsteins out of my top 6. And actually at the top I have 2 more Sunny and Juniors right up there. You can sort of see them. That are also, as I said, my top row are really my favorite good girl art ones. But this is Junior number 16. It's the last of the Junior series. And this was the other series of headlight covers that Al Felstein did. Al Felstein's more famous for his run in EC. But his early stuff is all these kind of good girl art covers. And this is from 1948. So right in between the 47 to 49 range. And it's just a really great cover. I love the roller coaster thing. I like the girl clinging onto the guy thing. And the guy is clinging. He's also clinging to the seat. And he's just he's just as terrified as she is. So I think it's just great. And it's a nice yellow and red cover. It's just got so many elements going on with this book. Yeah, I really like it. So that's number 5 on my list here. My last one is one that I've been chasing after this book. I love this book. It's a SOTI book. Just a really great book. And it's one that always gets priced out of my range whenever it goes up for auction. And I fought for this one. I had to get it. It's a rare book. This is Crime Reporter number 2. And it is just a classic one of these crime ones. The girl is running from a guy. Her clothes are kind of strewn aside. It's it's showing lots of leg, and it looks like you can see the guy's shooting at her. Okay, and it looks like it's actually shooting her hand. It's just so much going on. It's got that kind of a golden age horror element to it. It's got the definitely good girl art components going on. Just a really great cover. And it's also mentioned in Seduction and Innocent, which is something I really love collecting. So just all those reasons, really great book. I'm not saying that these are in order. This is just one that I really enjoy. So those have been my top 6 favorite good girl art from the 40s from 1947 to 1949, and one of them is a little bit off on the dates, but we'll let that slide. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this Q&A video. Again, to repeat my announcement that I put at the very beginning of the video, I will be at the Toronto Fan Expo, and if you want to get in touch with me at the Toronto Fan Expo, just Instagram me and I will get a notification. So yeah, who knows? We can meet up and shoot the breeze about comics. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye.